Welcome back to the 214 Sports Show again, episode 88. We are joined by one special individual. I'd like to call him Tommy Yarrish, Cowboys reporter again. Met him at the University of Texas at Austin, where all three of us good old pals, and good to see you again, or I guess good to hear from you again, Tommy. But yeah, just tell us how tell us how you're doing, man.
Well, it's great to be on with you guys again. Jordan coming on earlier in the year. Missed both you guys dearly. Loved our time together at Texas. And, glad you guys are doing good, keeping the show rolling. Everything's good here on my end. Getting ready for to head to Carolina later this week for Week 6 of the NFL season. But yeah, everything's good. Just miss you guys. Hope everything's good on y'all's end.
It's been
Yeah,
great,
man,
Tommy.
doing good. Glad to be yeah, glad to have you back on. And yeah, doing all right, but it's glad to have you back on for your analysis as you've been skyrocketing. I've been peeping at your followers. You're almost at 10K. So you're steadily climbing. A milestone is coming for the young Cowboys reporter.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for everybody that's made the poor decision to give me a follow on Twitter. I apologize to the many of them, but I'm grateful that they still do it, and glad that I hope I can do a good enough job of covering the team and telling their stories.
Well,
Hmm.
Tommy, you've done a great job. I knew that you were doing a great job ever since I got my fantasy update for CeeDee Lamb last year, and it said that it gave me the injury update, and it said per Tommy Yarrish of Dallas Cowboys. I was blown away by that. Thank you for providing those fantasy updates for my team. But anyways,
Always happy to
um,
help.
we are yeah, we're getting pretty deep into the NFL season now, like you said. Week 6 now going into Carolina, but we're gonna rewind into week 5. The Cowboys have been kind of, after the Chicago game in week 3, have kind of shown some life in the season. I'll admit it, kind of already gave up on the Cowboys after that Chicago game. I felt very freeing to give up on them, but now they've pulled me back in with these two games against the Packers. Of course, they didn't come out with a win there, but still played really well all 4 quarters. Went, tie them 40-40, and then now beating the New York Jets, going into Carolina, looking like a favorite to win that game. So, I mean, just talk a little bit about, what's been going well for the Cowboys on offense and on defense. I know that that one's a little bit of a harder one to answer, but just tell me, yeah, what are your thoughts on the Cowboys season right now?
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned that Week 3 Chicago game, and that kind of changed my thought process on the season too. Of just like, okay, where is this team really at? But then they come out the next week and do what they did against Green Bay, and a lot of it is, frankly, we're still too early in the season. I don't really know what version of this Cowboys team you're going to get week to week. It's hard to find, the constants of it. I'll say on offense, what's helping them out and what's keeping them in games is Dak Prescott. I think that, he's playing at arguably the best level that he's ever played at. He looks incredibly comfortable, extremely confident, and that was one of the things you were certainly hoping for when you make the Brian Schottenheimer hire. And okay, this is a guy who's familiar with the offense, he's familiar with Dak. It's not a process where they have to get to learn one another as much as you would say if you hired an external candidate. So that certainly helps. And then you add George Pickens, and Clayton Adams has done an unbelievable job helping scheme up the run game. Connor Riley, the offensive line coach, too, to have 4 starters down against the Jets last week. You don't really see that. Many teams have a lot of success when they're down 4 starters on the offensive line, and they made it look seamless and, completely fine. And so you got to tip your cap to them in that department. So offensively, that's what's keeping them in ball games right now. What's not keeping them in ball games is the defense. This is a unit that has looked very poor for a majority of the season. I think they started to find a little bit of rhythm against the Jets last week, but they also had a banged up offensive line. They've got two young guys at tackle, and then Justin Fields, who can sometimes hold the ball for a little bit too long, and sometimes is a little bit indecisive in what he can do throwing the football. So it was promising nonetheless to see them get 5 sacks, and they're going up against a Carolina team later this week that they've had 13 sacks in the last 2 meetings against Bryce Young. They had, I think it was 7 and 23 and 6 last year in 24. against the Panthers, so they could very well carry over some of that success. But overall, really, their pass rush up until last week had been more or less non-existent, and it affected them on the back end. Their secondary really struggled. They had some communication issues in the secondary too, and that led to some big plays. Russell Wilson kind of turned back the clock on him in week 2, and then you see what happens with him. And Caleb Williams has a really good day against him too. So they're still putting the pieces together defensively, but they're confident that they've got the pieces to do it. Now it's just a matter of, can they go out and execute? This is going to be a pretty big stretch these next 4 weeks because they're still banged up, and the back half of the schedule after the bye is really difficult.
I was going
Yeah.
to ask you, yeah, for sure. And, that was a really thorough answer. I want to ask you about, we talk a lot about Dak Prescott, him really finding a way to play this MVP level he has the past few weeks and so far in the 2025 season. Defense hasn't really been helping him out so far this year. They did better against the Jets, if you want to look at it as better, like you were saying. Talked about Javonte Williams as well in this rush attack. What we did not preview at all was number 19. No, not Amari Cooper, folks, but Ryan Flournoy, who went absolutely nuts against the New York Jets. Do you see from your angle as a reporter that they're actually is there any hype surrounding him at all? Is it just a one game thing because they're playing so aggressively on George Pickens? Do you think this is actually real for Ryan Flournoy to be a legit, number 3 option when CeeDee Lamb comes back, along with Tolbert and Turpin in this offense? Or do you think this is just a one-off game?
Well, it was funny because they asked Jerry Jones if it reminded him of the Miles Austin
Miles
game when he
Austin, yeah.
went nuts. And he said, yeah, it kind of did. So I think, it's too early to answer that. I think Ryan Floyd's got a lot of good tools, and, he's a physical, big-bodied receiver who can do some work for you after the catch. One of their better possession guys, I would say, on the roster in terms of going up and getting the football. But it's difficult to say after 1 week, like, there's your wide receiver 3, right? We're kicking Jalen Tolbert or Cavante Turpin to the curb. I think it's too early to say that. What I will say is, I think we're going to learn a lot about Ryan Floyd over the next couple of weeks because you're still looking at Cavante Turpin probably being out this week against Carolina. CeeDee Lamb, I would probably lean towards not playing against Carolina as well. And so that means he's going to essentially be in the exact same role. So if he can get it going again, then, maybe we can start to have some conversations, and the coaching staff is going to have to talk about, hey, what do we got here? How do we get this guy more involved? But he's a guy that they've certainly liked. They like their depth at wide receiver, and I think that was a showing of that. He got his opportunity, and he certainly made the most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the most interesting stats from the New York game, I guess probably the most interesting one, is that was the first time in a first half, maybe even a half in Cowboys history, you might be able to correct me on this, that a wide receiver and running back went for over 100 yards each in that half. And of course, it ends up being Javonte Williams and Ryan Flournoy, not somebody like Emmitt Smith or and Michael Irvin, which is just insane to think about. But yeah, we're talking a little bit about these injury reports for Carolina. Another big, I guess, or I guess development within this is that we're filming this on a Wednesday. All 3 Tylers of the offensive line, are kind of in limited play. Tyler Booker did not even play in Wednesday practice. I mean, what's your general confidence, I guess, in like these players, these 3 linemen playing in Carolina or at Carolina? Sorry.
Sure, good. I would lean towards Booker not playing. He had the high ankle sprain a couple of weeks ago, and the fact that he is even back on the practice field, we saw him on the courts today for the first time this quickly, is frankly unbelievable. Very, very rarely do you see guys like that recover so quickly. So I think he's really more day to day is what I've been hearing, but probably would lean towards him being out this week. And then Guyton and Smith, I would think you get at least one of them back on Sunday. Tyler Guyton, still dealing with the concussion and the protocol and things like that. And then Tyler Smith's knee stuff, which isn't supposed to be anything severe, something he's been dealing with since the off season. More really just a level of comfort for him. But both of them getting back out in a limited capacity today is, a step in the right direction. But They're still going to be banged up for, excuse me, a couple more weeks um, on the offensive line. But even if you're able to get one more starter back, that will certainly help you. And the way that your depth pieces played last week, you can feel a little bit more confident that hey, maybe we can,
Absolutely.
hold on until we get healthy here and lean on these guys who are playing well for us.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina, I guess, isn't really known for having a big pass rush, but you always want to be caution on the safer side, especially with somebody with a concussion, obviously, with concussion protocol. Last thing that I want to kind of bring up for the Dallas Cowboys is, of course, there's been kind of, Jerry kind of went on the, Jerry kind of went on the radio this morning, Wednesday morning, that is, and talked about maybe potentially talking about trading for a defensive player. I know that I'm not sure actually what he said. I just heard that he was on the radio. What are your thoughts on kind of the Cowboys looking at trading for a defensive player? We talked about it already, of course. They have been terrible. Not, I don't want to say terrible, but been pretty bad this season. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
It's certainly on the table. I think that Jerry has said from the jump that they're open for business. But ultimately, it's gonna have to be the right player and the right price. This is a team that's got they got two future first round picks for the Micah Parsons trade. They're going to be smart with how they utilize those. I think this plan of win now and compete in the future. I think they're trying to maximize Dak Prescott's window, and that certainly makes sense with where he's at contractually and where the roster is at right now. So I think it's just going to be. Jerry's always said, we don't pick up the phone first. They usually are the ones to get the calls. And here in the next couple of weeks, you'll see teams kind of. You already saw it with the Joe Flacco trade the other day. Is teams will start getting to a point in their season where they're recognizing, hey, we need this piece, or we're probably not going to have a great year. We can try and offload this piece and think towards the future. So it kind of has these next couple of games go along and teams start to settle into the reality for their season. I think is going to determine, what kind of a move the Cowboys will make and whether or not they'll end up making one. But if it would shock me at all if they were, involved in some things or on the phone lines at some point, absolutely not.
All right. I mean, yeah, that makes complete sense. I mean, if the Cowboys don't do something about this defense, I think we're gonna have to put number 99 Joseph Duffey out there. See what happens.
Hey, hey, he got comp to Aaron Donald coming out of high school.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Wore his
if
sleeves like
the
him too.
pad
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the knee
if the
injury,
pads
right?
still fit, I'm sure they'll have a spot for you.
Just gotta dust off the cobweb. Just blow it off right there. Get ready to put back on the cleats.
Well, thank you, Tommy, very much for joining the 214 Sports Show again. It is a pleasure to have you on at any point. But before you go, I do want to, give you a quick shout out. Do you want to, talk about where to follow you, where to look for your content and stuff real quick?
Yeah, sure. After you subscribe to the 214 Sports Show, I'm over at DallasCowboys.com. We got a great team over there covering the Cowboys for you from inside the building. Really, really happy to work with those guys. We'll have you covered there. And then I'm on Twitter at Tommy_Yarrish. So go ahead and keep up there. And road to 10K, still going strong, I guess. But yeah, make sure you subscribe and like the 214 Sports Show. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah.
Of course.
Just
Thank
want to
you.
say, disclaimer, we did not pay him to say that, by the way. This is free advertisement right here. But
That direct
again,
deposit will be hitting. I promise, Yarosh. Give it 24 hours.
Say less. Say less.
All $2.
all 2 cents, really. All right. Thank you very much, Tommy. We really appreciate you coming on again.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Anytime.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, now we are back to just us two. You can, I guess you could turn off the video now. All right, you got your Cowboys news from Mr. Yarrish, and now it's just us again. But if you dare to still tune in to our amazing commentary, we are going to move on to the Dallas Cowboys prop bets for the Carolina game. We've been doing this every week. We got to start keeping record of what we're saying if we're
We do.
right. I feel like I'm on fire personally. I think I've recently, I don't know. I need to check on it, but think I've been
I
really,
think you were riding the money with the Dak pass yard last week. I think you had under, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
227, right? It
Yeah, I
was
think you
about,
were
we had like 230, 235 was like
yeah.
yeah, I mean, hey, I'm telling you, man. Well, we're gonna go into the first one, which is the spread. Got the Cowboys. You know, Panthers, they've been looking good this year, but still a year removed from a terrible, terrible season. And they only have the Cowboys at a 3.5 favor for the spread. Joe, do you think this goes over or under? Or do you
I
think the
think
Cowboys cover the spread?
I think they cover. I think they win by a touchdown, and I think that's pretty fair. I think they can really separate from this Panthers team in the second half. It'll be close, I think, in the first half, but I think fourth quarter, Dak will really show up. Turnovers will cost Bryce Young and this Panthers offense, and if they can get home against this Panthers O line in front, this defense I'm talking about, I think the Cowboys can pull away. So I have them winning by a touchdown.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, like Tommy said, it's really hard to pinpoint this Cowboys team on a weekly basis. But I feel like you could say that about any NFL team. I think that the Cowboys are, you know, on a hot streak. That's 2 weeks in a row that they've played well. They burned my suspicion about, their road play against the Jets last game. I know that the Jets are winless, but still a good win overall on the road. Gave me confidence. I'm gonna say that they do cover the spread against Carolina. Not Carolina just doesn't impress me, and that's probably gonna come back to bite me, but they don't impress me. Over and under right now at 49.5 points. Do you think that's over or under?
I think it's fair to say under for this. I don't think this will be a high scoring affair for some reason. Um, Not to say that Dallas can't score a lot of points here, but I don't know if Carolina will score enough. I think this Cowboys defense can possibly figure some things out in this game. That garbage time touchdown with the Jets, I don't know if I really count that too much. This game was really a blowout for the first 3.5 quarters. I think that this Cowboys defense can possibly start playing hot, as you were saying, and get better. I think the Cowboys can win this game by putting up 30 plus points. I had them winning by at least a touchdown, so I'm gonna have this be over for sure and over under.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna go over as well. I'm just gonna
Oh,
say
did I say under or over?
you said under. You said
Yeah,
under at
under.
the first and
My
now.
bad. Under
Oh,
initially.
okay.
Under.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. You know what? I
Gotta clear
then
that up
I
before I
guess
get
I guess we
exposed.
disagree then because I'm gonna go over. Um yeah, I mean the Cowboys right now. I think that they're just playing really well. I mean, you're talking about the kind of the low scoring game against New York last game, but still 37 points for the Cowboys. They had 30 going into the fourth quarter. I'm gonna go with over on this. I think the Cowboys go over 30 points. I think the Panthers, regardless of if it's late or as in the second quarter, the third quarter, whatever, I think they eventually reach 20 points with this defense. I've yet to see the Cowboys put anyone under 20 points. And if my math is correct, 30 plus 20 is at least 50 points. So I'm going to go over here. Next one, we're going to move on to Dak Prescott. Throwing yards right now set at 245.5 yards. I believe he's number one in passing yards in the NFL right now, correct?
Yep, for sure. And I'm gonna go with Dak going over. I was not expecting him to be under that probably had last week. I think he goes over here against his Panthers defense. If this was the Panthers defense 2 years ago, I would say he's under. But since Steve Wilkes has left, this defensive unit has not nearly been as good, in my opinion. They're still hovering near top 10. But as far as yards given up, I think Dak can surpass that, and maybe Javonte Williams slows down a little bit in the run game. I think Dak will be over this mark for sure.
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna say that he goes over 245. I think this one's gonna be, I could see him going for almost 300 yards, like you said. I think that the pass defense for Carolina isn't too impressive. Dak is on fire recently. He's been efficient. I think that he keeps that streak up. This time he's gonna have some big explosive plays. And yeah, yeah, I'll go over with him. Next one, George Pickens at 65.5 receiving yards.
I think they keep going to the hot hand. I like what Brian Schottenheimer said. About basically making sure that anytime in his system, any game, he's going to feed his number one guy and get him targets. Now, he ended up actually going under, I believe, his prop last week, but there's no corner like Sauce Gardner on this defense for Carolina. I think he goes over 70 plus yards for sure.
Definitely agree with you. I think he gets at least 70 yards here. I think that looking at it right now, 16.2 yards per catch. He's third among wide receivers with 20 plus targets on the season. Look, this is going to be an explosive game for the Cowboys. They're going to have some explosive plays. George Pickens is going to be in the middle of it with Dak. I'm going to go over 65 and a half. This one's a fun one. Brian Anger, 3.5 punts. What do you have?
I think it's fair to go over here. Brian Anger. It's weird we haven't really been talking much about the punt game. I don't think he's had a terrible year at all. I don't think he's had a great year. You don't see him pinning anybody inside the five at all. I feel like I haven't seen that from Brian Anger in a minute, but I do think this offense will struggle for some reason in the first half, and for that reason, he'll be having at least close to that number, maybe possibly two or three punts in the first half. I think he'll go over this for sure.
I'm going to go under. Um, I don't think that he's had over 4 punts in a game this season. I think that it's pretty conservative for Brian Anger. I think that we have been pretty aggressive with our offense. We've been efficient with our offense. We've been scoring on a lot of our drives. New York didn't really, I don't know how many times we punted against New York, but I guarantee you it wasn't over 3.5. I think it's the same with Carolina. I'm going to go under. And the last thing is score prediction. What do you have for that?
I'm gonna go with the Cowboys winning 30 to No, I'm gonna say they're gonna win 28 to 22. Does that work? Is that oh, that's
28
under
to
that's
22.
over. That's over my thing. 28-21. How about that? I'll adjust that. For
All right,
some reason,
I'll go 31 and 20. Cowboys win by a touchdown and a field goal and then one extra point, I guess. Yeah, that goes over my 49 and a half. Yeah, I just don't, I hope that this is a Cowboys. I hope that they're able to win this game. And something that they've been doing recently in these last two games is finishing out the first half strong. If they're able to do that, I think that it's pretty free, a free win. I don't know. I'm not saying it. Whatever.
it's kind
Um,
of weird that their best defensive performance this year really has been against the Eagles. Because I mean, if you want to say the Jets, I don't know, but in terms of competition,
they
their best
were.
defensive performance was against the Eagles on opening night, which is really
It's hard to
odd.
say that. I mean, the Eagles were killing the Cowboys in the first half. Before
In
that rain
third down.
delay and the third down, it was. I mean, the run game never slowed down for Philadelphia almost. I mean, it slowed down a little bit, but they just dominated on the run. I think that I think that the Jets were definitely the most competent defensive. I don't know. I don't know. You raise a good question. I feel like the Jets game was a better defensive performance for the Cowboys, but I see where you're coming from with Philadelphia, especially since they're a lot more competitive. But